You found your way to Whispers of Crimes, a quiet corner where the shadows of the past are gently told. Here, we speak of real crimes and mysteries, not to shock or scare, but to wonder, to reflect, and maybe to help you fall asleep. So close your eyes, let your thoughts slow down, and come with me into tonight's case. They left home with hope. Two young women from Indonesia, Sumarti, Ningsih, and Seneng Mujiasih traveled to Hong Kong to build a better life. They worked hard, sent money home, dreamed of something more. But behind a luxury apartment door, their lives were stolen in the most brutal, unimaginable way. One was tortured for days. The other died trying to escape. Both were discarded like they didn't matter. Their killer? A wealthy British banker. Polished, educated, but hiding a darkness so deep, not even his own camera could capture it all. This isn't just a story about murder. It's about the women we overlook and the monsters we allow to hide in plain sight. This is the story of Sumarti and Seneng, and they deserve to be remembered. Chapter 1, From Java to Hong Kong. The migrant dream, Sumarti Ningsih and Seneng Mujiasih came from humble beginnings in Indonesia. Like hundreds of thousands of Indonesian women, they were part of the large migrant workforce that traveled abroad to work as domestic helpers, leaving behind families, children, and entire lives in the hope of earning enough to provide a better future back home. Sumarti was born in Cilacap, Central Java. Her family described her as quiet, soft-spoken, and responsible. At just 23 years old, she had already been working overseas to support her young son and extended family. She had previously worked in Hong Kong as a domestic helper on a valid visa, but returned to the city in 2014 on a tourist visa. Without legal work status, she is believed to have turned to sex work as a way to survive. This wasn't uncommon among women whose employment visas expired, but who lacked the means or desire to return home right away. Seneng Mujiasih, sometimes referred to by the name Jessie Lorena, was also in her 20s and came from a modest background. She too had worked as a domestic helper, but supplemented her income by working in bars and occasionally engaging in sex work, particularly in Hong Kong's red light district of Wan Chai. Seneng was known to be more outgoing and sociable than Sumarti. Despite the challenges of working abroad, both women tried to carve out a life in one of Asia's busiest financial hubs. Hong Kong was a city of contradictions. To the wealthy elite and expatriates, it offered lavish apartments, financial prestige, and a vibrant nightlife. But for domestic helpers like Sumarti and Seneng, it often meant exploitation, isolation, and vulnerability. The legal framework gave employers enormous control over their lives, determining where they lived, how much freedom they had, and even when they could leave the home. By October 2014, both women were living in precarious circumstances, with little protection from the dangers that lurked just beyond the city's neon glow. Chapter 2. The double life of Rurik Jutting, Rurik Jutting appeared, at first glance, to be the embodiment of success. Born in the United Kingdom, he attended the prestigious Winchester College before earning a law degree from the University of Cambridge. He was intelligent, articulate, and driven. After graduation, he worked in the financial sector, eventually securing a lucrative position at Bank of America Merrill Lynch in Hong Kong. By the age of 29, Jutting was earning over $1 million annually, living in a high-rise apartment in Wan Chai and rubbing shoulders with other high-flying professionals. But underneath that glossy exterior was a deeply disturbed individual unraveling at an alarming pace. Jutting's colleagues noted a change in his behavior in the months leading up to the murders. He became erratic and isolated, and there were reports of increased substance abuse, especially cocaine. He abruptly resigned from his banking job just days before the killings, although the exact reasons behind his resignation remain unclear. In private, Jutting had developed a disturbing obsession with violence, domination, and sadism. He amassed a large collection of violent pornography and started recording long, rambling video diaries where he spoke openly about fantasies of torture and murder. His mental state was deteriorating rapidly, but he remained unchecked and unchallenged, living in an upscale apartment with the freedom and resources to act on his darkest impulses. This deadly combination of privilege, isolation, and psychological instability would soon result in two of the most brutal murders in modern Hong Kong history. Chapter 3. The Final Days of Sumarti Ningsih on or around October 25, 2014. Sumarti Ningsih entered Jutting's apartment at the J residence building on Johnston Road. The exact circumstances of their meeting remain uncertain, but it's believed she was approached by Jutting and offered a large amount of money for sex. It's also likely that, despite any initial hesitation, Sumarti saw it as an opportunity to earn several months' worth of wages in one night. Once she was inside the apartment, Jutting's sinister intentions became clear. He restrained her and subjected her to hours of violent sexual abuse. According to forensic evidence and Jutting's own videos, he kept Sumarti imprisoned for 3 days, torturing her repeatedly with various instruments, including sex toys, pliers, and a belt. He documented the abuse on his iPhone, filming both himself and his victim. Some videos reportedly showed him talking to the camera about what he had done, reflecting on his own mental state and showing no apparent remorse. His tone was at times grandiose and detached, as though he were narrating a performance rather than describing real-life torture. Eventually, Jutting took her into the bathroom, forced her to kneel over the tub, and slit her throat with a serrated knife. She bled to death in his apartment. Jutting then wrapped her body in a suitcase and placed it on his balcony. In the tropical heat of Hong Kong, her remains began to decompose quickly. The smell began to seep through the apartment, but Jutting ignored it. He had already set his sights on his next victim. Chapter 4. Halloween and the murder of Seneng Mujiasih. Less than a week after murdering Sumarti, Jutting was on the prowl again. It was Halloween night, October 31st, 2014. Bars and clubs in Wan Chai were overflowing with revelers in costume, dancing and drinking under the city's neon lights. Amid the chaos, Jutting found Seneng Mujiasih, who had been working in the area that night. He invited her to his apartment, offering a significant amount of money. She agreed. It's not entirely clear how long Seneng was inside the apartment before things turned violent, but she must have sensed something was terribly wrong. She attempted to flee. Neighbors reported hearing a woman screaming for help. One neighbor even tried knocking on the door after hearing the commotion, but got no response. By the time police arrived, Seneng was dead. Jutting had stabbed her multiple times and slashed her throat. Her body was found near the entrance of the apartment, suggesting that she was trying to escape. Inside, police discovered a nightmarish scene. Blood splattered on walls and floors. Sex toys, drugs, knives, and bondage equipment lay scattered across the apartment. Then they found the suitcase on the balcony. Inside was the decomposing body of Sumarti Ningsih. The smell was overpowering. But it was the contents of Jutting's iPhone that horrified investigators even more. Chapter 5. Digital Confessions and the Mind of a Killer. Rurik Jutting's iPhone contained over 2,000 photographs and 80 videos, some several hours long. In these, he documented not only the abuse of his victims, but also his own thoughts and motivations. The videos painted a disturbing portrait of a man consumed by sadism and narcissism. In one recording, Jutting described how he enjoyed watching women suffer. He confessed to planning the torture of more victims and even fantasized about building a torture room in his apartment. He also speculated about traveling to the Philippines or other parts of Asia where he believed he could continue his crimes undetected. Psychiatrists later analyzed these recordings and described them as evidence of a highly disturbed, but also highly intelligent individual. Jutting displayed elements of narcissistic personality disorder and sexual sadism disorder. But the debate remained. Was he mentally ill enough to be considered not responsible for his actions? The recordings also revealed that Jutting knew the moral and legal consequences of his actions. He often referred to himself as a monster, but seemed to revel in that label, even expressing pride in what he had done. His cold, calculated behavior after Sumarti's murder cleaning parts of the apartment, shopping for more sex toys, and preparing for his next victim indicated a chilling level of control. He wasn't a man in a psychotic break. He was fully aware, fully capable, and fully dangerous. Chapter 6, Trial and Sentencing. Rurik Jutting was arrested on the spot and charged with 2 counts of murder. His trial began in October 2016 at Hong Kong's High Court. He pleaded not guilty to murder, but admitted to manslaughter, citing diminished responsibility due to his mental condition. The defense presented psychiatric evaluations that diagnosed him with narcissistic personality disorder and sexual sadism disorder. They argued that these conditions impaired his ability to control his behavior and understand the moral wrongness of his actions. However, the prosecution pushed back hard. They brought their own mental health experts who testified that Jutting was not mentally ill in a legal sense and that he was fully capable of understanding and controlling his actions. The jury was shown some of the videos Jutting had recorded, although the most graphic ones were withheld due to their disturbing nature. Still, what the jurors saw and heard was enough. After 6 hours of deliberation, they returned with a unanimous verdict, guilty on both counts of murder. On November 8, 2016, Jutting was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He is currently serving his sentence at Shek Pik Prison, one of Hong Kong's maximum security facilities. Chapter 7, Justice and the Forgotten Voices. The murders of Sumarti, Ningsih, and Seneng Mujiasih shocked Hong Kong, but they also highlighted a broader, often ignored reality, the vulnerability of foreign domestic workers in wealthy cities. With over 300,000 domestic helpers in Hong Kong, mostly from Indonesia and the Philippines, cases of exploitation, abuse, and neglect are not uncommon. These women live in their employers' homes, often with minimal privacy, and are rarely covered by comprehensive labor protections. If they lose their jobs, they have only 2 weeks to find new employment before being forced to leave the country. Many, like Sumarti and Seneng, end up undocumented or in dangerous side jobs, simply trying to survive. For their families back in Indonesia, the loss was unimaginable. Sumarti's father spoke in interviews about the heartbreak of losing his daughter in such a gruesome way. Seneng's family received her remains and financial assistance from the Indonesian government, but the emotional toll was immense. The case drew attention from human rights organizations and migrant worker advocates. They demanded stronger protections for foreign domestic workers, not just in Hong Kong, but across Asia and the Middle East. While Jutting's conviction brought legal closure, the structural inequalities that made Sumarti and Seneng vulnerable in the first place still persist. In the end, this case is not just about a killer. It's about a system that failed 2 women who came to Hong Kong with hope and instead met horror. That's all for tonight's story. Another thread in the web of true crime, quietly unraveling as the night goes on. If you're still with me, thanks for listening. And if sleep has already taken you, may your dreams be peaceful and your mind at ease. I'll be here next time by the fire with another story waiting to be told. Good night, and don't forget to lock your doors.